Hi, my name is Ray, and welcome to my Understanding Japanese Culture project. So, first off, we have culture dimension, individualism versus collectivism. So, Japan's culture is very much group over self. So, they actually rank 46 on the Hofstede's individualism scale, and which that can tell us that there's a preference for group-oriented behavior over individual ambition. This pretty much means that This pretty much means that they rather have one group win over than an individual win. Loyalty is also a very big part of Japanese culture, whether it comes to family, a company, or even school. Loyalty is a big foundation on their culture. Also in Japanese culture, they also define themselves through group roles, such as if you play sports or if you belong to a very good company or a family. Um, those are usually your role and what you belong to and what people see you as. Next, we have culture dimensions, power distance. So pretty much this is all about respecting the hierarchy. Japan has a moderate to high distance power distance score, which is 54. This means authority and rank are respected, but that's also respected. But bowing is also a very big thing in the Japanese culture. It shows recognition of the social hierarchy. This can be by the depth, the duration, and the frequency of bows that reflect to the status between people or whoever you are bowing to. So, for an example, if you were to bow to an elder or your boss, your bow would be very deep and it would be very slow on the way down, very slow on the way up. So that shows very much respect. But say, for an example, if you were bowing to a friend or an acquaintance, somebody you don't really know that well, you would bow quick and it wouldn't be as much as a deep bow. It would be a very slight bow. Next, we have culture dimensions, uncertainty avoidance. Japan has a very high need for structure, and everything has to be done by the books, basically. Their uncertainty avoidance score is 92, which is very high, which means they feel threatened by anything that is out of order or anything that is not by the books. They don't like it, makes them feel very uncomfortable. Strict social etiquette and behavior expectations. This all goes even into eating. Eating usually with chopsticks. It's a very by the books thing to eat by. Even gift giving. All of this has there's right things to do when doing such things, and if you don't do it properly or etiquettely by the books, it makes them feel very uncomfortable. Next, we have communication style. So understanding Japanese communication. High content culture. Communication relies on nonverbal cues, tone, and shared understanding more than direct words. So, for an example, tone. If you were just to tell somebody straight up no in Japan, they would consider that to be rude. People use vague expressions to avoid conflict. Nonverbal communication is also very powerful. As I mentioned earlier, bowing. It's a very respectful and common thing to do in Japan. Hand gestures. But some nonverbal things that can be harmful are eye contact. In some places in Japan, eye contact, if you're doing it too much or too long, it could come off as aggressive. Next, we have politeness and language. Language of respect. So in Japan, you would use kiego, which is an honorific language. These right here are different types of levels of speech depending on who you're talking to. So you would either speak humbly, respectfully, or politely. Common polite phrases before eating, which you would say would show gratitude to whatever food you are eating. And there's also ojama shimasu. When entering someone's house or an office, it mainly means, can I come in, or am I disturbing you? That's typically the way they enter unfamiliar places in Japan. Next, we have dishes. So a traditional dish would be sushi. The components of sushi are pretty simple, only a few. It's not complicated. It's vinegar rice, which is also known as shari, topped with raw fish or vegetables. Typically served with wasabi, soy sauce, or ginger gari. This is usually how we see sushi be served to us here in the U.S. Types of sushi, we have nigiri, which is hand-formed rice with toppings. As you see right here, that's nigiri. It's just hand-formed rice with a little tempura shrimp tail on top of it. There's also maki, which is also just rolled in seaweed with rice and different types of fillings. And then there's also sashimi, which is no rice, just plain raw sliced fish, which is this one right here. They do all types of fish. They do sushi. They do tuna. They do salmon. They even do cod in some parts of Japan. It's not really that common though. Salmon is mainly the most common one. Eating etiquette. Sushi is traditionally eaten with chopsticks or hands. Traditionally, when dipping sushi into any types of sauce, in Japan, you typically dip fish side first instead of the rice side. If you dip rice side first, rice is known for soaking up liquid, so they don't dip rice side first because it will soak up all the liquid, which will basically give you an overwhelming flavor of whatever sauce that you're dipping in. So that's why they dip fish side first. And before eating, you would say itag musa, which shows gratitude for your meal. It's basically saying thank you. Next, we have popular dish, which is ramen. Ramen is basically just wheat noodles boiled in broth, which makes them soft. Ramen is served typically with pork, partially runny boiled eggs, and scallions, and sometimes seaweed, but it's not typically traditional. Types of broth, you have soy sauce broth, which gives a light and salty flavor. You have miso, which is rich, savory, slightly sweet flavor, and then you have pork bone broth, which is all it is just you just take the bone and you boil it in water for numerous amounts of hours, and the juices from the bone will come out and basically mix with the water. That's pork bone broth. Pretty simple. And then eating culture here in the United States, if we were eating dinner or anything at all, if we were slurping on our food, that would be considered disrespectful. But actually in Japan, if you slurp your food, it's actually considered, it's actually encouraged because it shows appreciation to your food and it shows that you like it and that it's good. Yeah. Next, we have a classic dish, which is tempura. Tempura is basically just either seafood or any type of vegetables, lightly battered and deep fried. Batter is made with cold water and flour, which if you've ever had tempura, that gives it its really light and fluffy texture to it when you bite into it. Some common ingredients for tempura would be shrimp, or even sweet potatoes, eggplant, sometimes pumpkin, any vegetable really at all. Tempura is usually served with the dipping sauce, and it can be served as a main dish, a side, or a topping for rice bowls and noodles, or as we saw in the picture before, it's even served as a topping for sushi. That is my presentation, and thank you for watching.